My name is Piers, and I am mainly a children's writer. And I've written a few books. I wrote The Last Wild series, The Last Wild, The Dark Wild, and The Wild Beyond. And I'm going to be talking a bit more about that today. I also wrote a book called There May Be a Castle. And then my new series of books, sort of inspired by the Narnia books, called The Lost Magician. And my very latest book is called The Frozen Sea. And they're all in shops at the moment if you want to read them. But the book we're going to be focusing on today is The Last Wild. And it's a book I wrote because I was really worried about what I'd been reading about animals and our wildlife, and discovering that since the Second World War, we'd lost over 60% of the wildlife on this planet, which was really worrying and disturbing. And it gets to the heart of why I think we write stories. I think we write stories because we want to try and understand the world we live in. And if you have anything that worries you, or troubles you, or amuses you, or bores you, or perplexes you, or annoys you, I would say that writing a story about that is a great way to explore your feelings on that subject. It doesn't necessarily mean you'll come up with a solution or stop those feelings, but it might help you understand them a bit more. And just as importantly, it might help people who have the same feelings feel that they're not alone and understand their feelings as well. And I think that's why we write stories. And what we're going to do this morning is I'm going to take you through some of the steps I did when I was writing this book, The Last Wild, and we're going to try and create our own story together. But the first thing we need to do is get ourselves in the right frame of mind for writing. Writing's not something you can just do like that at the drop of a hat. I wish it was. You can't just immediately down tools and start writing. So what we're going to do, I want everyone to get a blank sheet of paper. Has everyone got a blank sheet of paper? Yeah. And I want you to write in very big letters on the blank sheet of paper. I want you to write these words. I'm writing them down. Can you see what I've written? I've written, I am not afraid of you. I want to write on the blank sheet of paper in big letters, I am not afraid of you. Okay. And when everyone's done that, can they show it up to the camera so I can see that you've all done it? Because often the most terrifying thing when we start writing is, here's this blank sheet of paper. How on earth am I going to write something that's good, that other people want to read? Brilliant, very good. Well done, Clem. Well done, Mabel. Well done, the class below. Thank you. The guys at the top, well, my top of my screen. Brilliant. And when you've done that, I want you to do this. Crumple that bit of paper up. Crumple that bit of paper up and throw it away, because you are not afraid of the blank page. Any ideas you have, anything you want to write on that page, you absolutely can. So the next thing I want you to do is get another sheet of paper, another blank sheet of paper, and I want you to write down your name. I want you to write, my name is, and then your name. And beneath that, I want you to write, and I am a writer. And I don't want you to throw that away at all. I want you to hang on to that bit of paper. I want you to stick it up perhaps on a wall where you can see it, ask a teacher or a parent, or put it somewhere special, stick it in a favorite book, or frame it, or color it in, but look after it. I want you to never forget that. Every single person in this world can write a story if they want to. Everyone has something to say. And if ever you're feeling doubtful or thinking, I can't write or I can't do that, I want you to go back to that bit of paper and remember that you are all writers and never forget it. And just to show that, just to prove that, we're going to start writing a story. And what we're going to do is I'm going to share the screen with you in a minute, hopefully. And I'm going to read you a bit of The Last Wild. Hopefully. Just trying to share my screen. Okay. Okay. Right, there you go. So this is, can you all see that? This is a bit from The Last Wild, which I'm just going to read. This is when Kester in The Last Wild meets a stag. And this is the first major animal, one of the first major animal characters we meet in the story. I turn around to see a deer much bigger than any of the others. A stag, I had heard of them, but to see a real one right in front of me, enormous, dark brown, twice the height of any other animal here, with wide horns, jabbing and curving in all different directions. He takes a few steps towards me and all the other creatures part to make way for him like he's the king. He lowers his head. I flinch back against the rock, trying not to breathe or touch him. But he doesn't gore me, he sniffs me. He sniffs my hair and face and hands, all over, inhaling every inch. When he next speaks, his voice is soft. This old stag asks for your forgiveness, but I am the one who summoned you here. He raises himself to his full height once more. It's hard to read his face. I can't tell if he's smiling or frowning. Now, what I'd like you to do is immediately, without thinking about it, write down all the words that come to mind when you're now thinking of a stag. All the words that come to mind. If you had to write about a stag, you can use the screen for reference or ones that come into your head. Just write down as many words as you can that you might use to describe a stag. Okay. So what I'd like you to do now is I would like you to think of an animal. I'm just going to stop that for a sec. I'd like you to think of an animal, any animal you like, and we're going to give this animal a name. And I'd like you to write down at the top of a sheet of paper your last name, not your first name, your last name. and write down your last name, was a animal. So I'm going to do it as well. So I've written, Torday was a wolf. When you've chosen your animal, I want you to add and he was, or and she was, and then write down some of those descriptive words that you've got. You wrote about the stag to describe your animal. Oh, good. Glad blue bubble about. So you've got, when you've done that, you've got the most important thing you need to begin a story, and that is a character. Because all stories, when it comes down to it, have at their heart the characters. When you read a story, they're the people or the animals that you care about. And people often think stories are about plot and what happens next and what they do, but really stories about characters. It's the characters we remember. And by creating an animal and describing it, you've got the beginnings of your character. But the next thing all characters need is they need to want something, because we all want something in our life. We want to be happy. We want to have friends. Some of us want to make lots of money. Some of us want to just be really good at what we do. Some of us want to be left alone. In lots of books that we enjoy reading, characters all have different things that they want. In The Last Wild, my hero Kester wants to find his dad. He wants to save the animals, but he also really wants to find his dad. And whether or not he finds his dad is kind of the thing that keeps us turning the pages in this book, I think. In the Harry Potter books, Harry Potter wants to do lots of different things. He wants to defeat Lord Voldemort, but he also really wants to find out what happened to his parents, who murdered James and Lily Potter all those years ago on that dark and stormy night. So what I'd like you to do now is work out what your animal wants. What do they want more than anything else in the world? So you've written down your last name was an animal, then you've written some descriptions of it. And I want you to imagine your animal can speak. I know animals can't speak really, but I wish they could. I want you to imagine your animal could speak, and I want you to make them say, I want more than anything else in the world. It might just be, I want to be happy. It might be, I want to escape. It might be, I want to find my mum. It might be, I want to eat that bone over there. Any of those things will work. Whatever you want to put down is good. If it's what your animal wants, think about what your animal would want. An animal you love, an animal you've given your own name to. What would it want more than anything in the world? Oh, that looks good. Can I? Campbell was a turtle, funny but he doesn't know it, old, slow, but still loves adventures. He wants to be known by everyone and realized and respected. Isn't that so much. Campbell is just like so many of us, isn't he? He's a turtle. He wants to be recognised for what he is, and that is an old and brave turtle. That's lovely. That's a really good beginning for a story. Thank you, guys. Thank you. All right. So now, if in a story the hero had a goal, such as Harry Potter wants to find who killed his parents, would it be a good story if Harry Potter found his parents on page 2 of that story? Hands up if you think that would be a good idea. No, I'm seeing lots of shaking heads. No. So in other words, what makes a story good or exciting or even funny is the obstacles that stop their hero achieving what they want. You've got your character, you've got your animal, you've described them a bit so we can imagine them in our heads, and we know what they want. They're beginning to become almost a real person or creature on the page. But now I want you to make life complicated for them. I want you to write down, you don't need to do it in a story form, you can just write it down, what is stopping them getting what they want. Now, this can be anything you like, but I'm going to give you one rule. It has to be in the room you are in at the moment. It has to be in the room you are in at the moment, whether it's a classroom or a sitting room or a bedroom. It has to be in that room. Look around that room and think, what could stop your hero getting what they want? Could it be that the door is locked so they can't go and find it? Could it be that there is a picture on the wall behind them that has a secret clue, and unless they can decode that picture, they'll never find what they want? And I'm not going to give you any more ideas. I want you to think of it. Look around your room, use your imagination. What in your room, what everyday object could be a deadly obstacle to your hero stopping what they want? Bear in mind, initially, what stops Harry Potter getting is what he wants is that he's stuck locked in his bedroom by his horrid adopted father, Vernon Dursley. So it doesn't always need to be dark wizards that stop people getting what they want. And maybe when someone's written down what the obstacle is stopping their hero, someone might show it up to the screen and share it with us. Maybe one person from the class, perhaps. Okay. Has anyone got an obstacle they'd like to share with us? Don't worry if you haven't. You showing something, Mabel? No? No, okay. All right. My character, Torday, was a wolf, and what he wants most in the world is to find his pack. But what is stopping him is that he is on a Zoom call. My wolf is on a Zoom call, and therefore he can't go and find his pack because he's stuck on this Zoom call. And if he leaves the Zoom call, he'll get in real trouble. So he's waiting for the Zoom call to finish so he can go and find his pack. I didn't say it had to be a totally serious obstacle. Oh, here we go. Harvey was a lion who was sunbathing one day, wishing he could see some friends. That's brilliant, Blue Bubble. I love that. It's a really nice universal desire. We all wish we could see our friends a bit more at the moment, I think. And what's this from Clem here? My name is Clem and I'm writer. What's that? Can you hold the bottom? He wants me to know he has to climb up a wall. Can you hold it a bit more so I can see? To go through the secret passage. Fantastic, but of course that's quite difficult for turtles. Brilliant. Okay, so you now have, I hope, the beginnings of a story. You have a hero, you have a desire, and you have an obstacle. And those are the three things we all need to make a story. Now you can add different things. You can add villains who make the obstacle worse. You can add friends who help the hero achieve their goal. But you always need, a bit like a stool needs three legs, a story needs a hero, a goal, and an obstacle. And once you have those things, you have the foundations for a story. And as long as you never forget that you are a writer and that all your ideas are valid and that it's worth trying everything, and you stick that bit of paper up on the wall, I promise you, in the time you have this summer, you will be able to write a story, and it will be a good one. You have my word. Now we have a few minutes left, so if anyone has any questions about books or writing, is that right, Claire? We've got some Q&A time now. I'd be very happy to take some questions and answer them as best I can.
Thank you so much. It's wonderful. I love those three things we're going to get going for this holidays that stretch ahead of us. I think that's the most lovely and manageable as well, because sometimes people say, oh, come on, just write something down. It's, you know, you can do it. Of course you can. Actually, when you think, you know, without just a little bit of guidance, it's quite daunting, the thought of trying to get those ideas down. And maybe it's that thing of just everyone can do it, but you just need to just have that. I love the idea of the goal and the obstacle. It just makes it, and you relating to the various different books that all seem to have that. It's quite fun when we all read books is to look out for those three things in other books as well.
Yes, that's a good exercise.
It's quite fun to do that. So I can see that Clem, you've got a question. If we just get, if Olivia, you can unmute Clem, and do you want to ask the question to Piers?
I've already written a couple books. I'm writing one right now, and I've written books for school because we do a 500-word challenge every year. You have to write a 500-word book.
That's fantastic. What are you working on a story this summer?
Yeah. Brilliant.
How many words have you done so far?
Well, I'm writing it down on paper first.
Fantastic. It's great. 500 words is a really achievable goal, I think. And if anyone wants to write a story this summer, first of all, it doesn't matter how long your story is. A good story can be 10 words, can be 500 words, can be 1,000 words. The way I write stories is I just write a small number of words each day. It's not really about the number of words you write. It's about what you write and what you say. And so if you write a small number of words each day over the summer, by the end, you will have a story. It might be 500 words long, it might be longer. But if you write a little each day, it's like, you know, sometimes you see those mountains of pebbles, cairns that walkers leave to guide the way in paths in the countryside. If you and they grow very slowly, because every time a walker goes past, they add a pebble to it. And stories are a bit like that. If you just add a few words each time, it grows and grows and grows. You don't need to do it all in one go or all at once. So anyone who's setting themselves a target of writing a story like a 500-word challenge, that would be my advice. And sometimes it's a really good trick is to leave off in the middle of a sentence when you know something really exciting is going to happen. Why is that a good trick? Because it means when you start writing the next day, you won't have to worry and scratch your head and go, what am I going to do? You know, I know exactly what's going to happen. This is the bit where the lion bursts out through the door. Okay, there's a question here, Claire, from Blue Bubble, from Lila, asking what inspired me to write The Last Wild. Shall I answer that one?
That'd be brilliant, thank you.
Great. So Lila, what inspired me to write The Last Wild is I was just really concerned about what we are doing to this planet, and that we've lost so much wildlife, and if we're not careful, we're going to risk losing a lot more. But I didn't want to lecture people about it or tell people they have to change the way they live their lives, or use electricity less, or eat less meat, because I think there are people who do that with good reason, but I think it's in a story that's a bit off-putting. What I wanted to do was try and get people to care emotionally about these animals, because I think unless we really feel for them or understand the situation these animals are in, the perils they face because of lack of food or changing climate, or human beings taking their territory, we'll never really understand what it's like for them, and so we'll never really change our ways. So I really wrote this story because I wanted to try and get people to understand life from an animal's point of view.
Clem, I see have you got a question for Piers?
Is anyone in your books based on anyone you know?
So, Clem, that's a very good question, and a question a lot of authors get asked. And I think the way I would answer it is that I suppose they have to be, because the only person who writes my books, sadly, sometimes I wish it was someone else, is me. And so everything I put in the pages of those books has somehow got into my brain and out of it again. So unfortunately, it is the things in my books are only ideas that come from the experiences I've had in my life from childhood onwards, the memories I share of things I've done with my friends and my family in my professional life, and the books I've read and the places I've traveled to. So obviously I can read about other people's ideas in books or on the internet or see films, but in the end, everything goes through my brain and my memory, my imagination. So it's inevitable that things friends have said or family have said or people I've worked with have said do end up somewhere along in the books. But what I do try and do is I try and disguise it, because I don't want people to feel I'm necessarily writing about them or telling their story without permission. So I just borrow little bits from different people and I put it all together and try and make something original everyone can feel they enjoy as a story. I've got some more questions from Blue Bubble here. Amber, what made me become an author? Well, I loved reading at school and I also loved writing stories. I think, as I said at the start, because it helped me understand things a bit more. And also when people enjoyed the stories, that gave me a real pleasure. I got real satisfaction out of it. And sadly, I've discovered that I'm not much good at much else. So I write stories and make things up because it's what I enjoy doing the most. And I think everyone should be given a chance to do what they enjoy the most in their life, because we only get one of them.
And so, Piers, do you think that when just looking through the chats of, when was the first? How old were you when you actually sort of wrote your first? What you'd be able to?
I was about 7 when I wrote my first story, and then I did a comic which won a prize in a local newspaper when I was about 8 or 9 or something. Just a short comic strip about a superhero called Sid, whose superpower was that he didn't have any superpowers. I'm not really sure how that worked, but anyway.
How brilliant! Well, I've wanted to know about that, kind of the idea of comic books and all sorts. It's because writing comics, looking at comics, is also a great way of sort of getting going with ideas, isn't it?
It's terrific. If you want to know how a story is put together, it's quite hard to look at a book because it's just page after words which look all the same at a glance. If you look at a comic or open a centerfold of a graphic novel or a comic, I think that is like looking at an X-ray of a story. Stories, like our bodies, are made up of individual units and components. And when you look at a comic or a graphic novel, I used to read lots of Asterix and Tintin and stuff like that. It's really easy to see how they're put together because each panel in a comic is, if you like, a unit of that story. And you can see how the story is put together, the introduction, the setup, the payoff, all those things. Some interesting, just a couple of interesting questions here from Blue. Mr. Corley would like to know how I feel about coronavirus and the link with the red eye in The Last Wild.
Wow.
When I wrote The Last Wild, I really hoped I wasn't writing a prediction. It was dystopian fiction, not speculative fiction. Well, in a sense, how I feel is that sadly things have come true. The Last Wild is about a virus that affects animals, not humans. But it really was meant to be sounded the alarm bells about what we're doing to wildlife. And what we do know about coronavirus is that it's partly come about because we are selling and eating animals we shouldn't be selling and eating. The more we intrude on nature, the more nature is going to strike back in unexpected ways, whether that is climate change causing increased hurricanes or increased global travel and consumption of animals we shouldn't be eating, spreading zoonotic viruses like the COVID virus. But what I also hope the Last Wild series shows is that these things can be overcome. They pose incredible challenges, but they can be overcome. And I think it's really important that we're really hopeful about what human beings can do to solve these challenges, as well as the excitement and drama and worry and anxiety of the challenge.
Well, thank you so much, Piers. Well, I think that there'll be lots of other the chats would keep coming, but I think probably that's all we have time for today. But thank you so much.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Really wonderful words and lovely inspiration to take us through into the summer months. So
thank you, Claire. Thanks for having me. Thanks everyone for joining, and do keep writing over the summer if you can, just adding a few words each day.